Hey, everybody, welcome to our week 3 lecture. This is all about resume crafting. And in this lecture, I'm going to walk you through some of the important pieces that you need to know about creating a resume for a job search or updating your current resume for job searches or job promotions. Now, before you create a resume, check this out. You actually need a job listing. Lots of times in the past, people would make a resume and they would just send that resume out to everyone. They would also make a cover letter and send that cover letter out to all the jobs that they were applying for. That in today's competitive environment is highly inefficient, highly ineffective. And so I'm going to walk you through what we're going to do in our class, which is number one, find a job that you might want to apply for, and then build your resume and your other documents to match that. Now, you may be saying, Christina, do you mean I have to make a brand new resume for every job that I apply for? No, you can make some small tweaks. And we're going to see how to do that as we move forward in class. So let's take a look at where to find the job listings. Now, I say these are all ponds or pools that you can go fishing in. It really depends on what kind of job you're looking for as to where you might start searching. And here are just some of the top places people go. LinkedIn, Indeed, USA Jobs gives quite a few government jobs, Zip Recruiter, Monster, Career Builder, or industry specific sites. So I currently work in higher education and I might go to higheredjobs.com. That would be an industry specific site that I would go to. Um, Glassdoor is another one that's not listed on here. That typically has jobs listed in the 6 figures. And so for those who have some experience or some transferable skills, that might be a good one that you'd want to look at as well. So what I would encourage you is pick 1 or 2 of these and go out and just see what jobs are out there that you might be interested in and take a copy of it. I'll talk you through the assignment for this week in just a bit, but basically you're going to find a job that you would want to apply for. Now, next I'm going to talk about 6 tips for making sure you've got a really good resume that's going to get you through those applicant tracking systems or those human evaluators. And so the first is clarity and correctness. The second is optimizing your space on your resume. The third is all about formatting. The fourth is about organization. The fifth is, yes, there's AI involved in this. So you want to use AI responsibly. I'm going to talk about what that means in a moment. And then 6, get a second set of eyes to review your work. So let's talk a little bit about the first one, clarity and correctness. Now, when you're building your resume, you want to choose your words very carefully. Your resume is not where you write your whole entire work life story. Nobody cares. They want to know what skills, what characteristics, what knowledge do you have that is going to match you best to the job. So choose your words very carefully. You also want to use strong action verbs. Some examples: collaborate, initiate, analyze, manage, develop. So you want to think about what actions did you take as you express your skills. Maybe you managed a budget of $4 million for a nonprofit. That would be really important for someone looking for a person who can manage finances. This next piece is so important. Match the verb tense to the time frame that you are referring to. Here's what I mean. If I had a job that was from 2018 to 2022, that job is in the past. So all of my verbs need to be past tense verbs. For example, managed incoming client calls, or led a team of 17 to meet their sales goals, or relayed messages for the executive, or managed the calendar of so and so. So those verbs are past tense verbs. Now, for my current job, let's just say, I don't know, maybe I work at a coffee shop. And so my current job would be, I'm going to say I'm a coffee shop manager. So I might say completed weekly orders, manage team schedules. I just messed that up. I used the wrong verbs. Okay, so present tense equals present verbs. So on a day-to-day basis, I manage the orders. I create the team schedule. I um, oversee operations. So you all see what I mean. Past jobs are past tense verbs. Present job is present or are present tense verbs. Okay, next, your resume has one chance to make an impression. Only one. And lots of times, if you are working with human evaluators, like at the college where I work, we have a team of people that review applications. And if someone has multiple spelling errors or multiple punctuation errors, or they say, hey, I'm applying for your finance job at so and so bank, like they gave us the wrong resume or the wrong cover letter, they are automatically kicked out. We don't continue forward. And so think about that. Your resume has one chance to make an impression. That's with human evaluators. With the automatic tracking system, which you'll learn about in a bit, ATS, your resume has like just seconds to make an impression. So it's a machine that is searching for keywords, and that's becoming more and more popular because it's more efficient. Having human evaluators to screen first round resumes is super inefficient. And so lots of companies, lots of organizations are moving to artificial intelligence or ATS, automated tracking systems to review resumes. Also, most research indicates that a human scans a resume in less than 10 seconds and makes a judgment call. So let's just say that you had a typo in the first like couple of sentences in your cover letter or your resume. You're out just for a tiny little typo. So that's why double checking your work is really important. So even those tiny little small errors can get you booted from the job search. So if you find yourself in a place where like I have submitted like 5,000 resumes and nobody's calling me back, go back and look and see if you've got errors in your resume. You may be causing yourself to not move forward. Tip number 2 is optimize the space. Okay, listen, people. Nobody wants to read a 17-page resume for an entry-level position. Maybe you did have 29 babysitting jobs, or maybe you have walked 42 people's dogs and done a really good job. But if it's an entry-level position, 1 to 2 pages is like the max. If you're looking to like a high level executive or a promotion within your current location, so you've got a few different jobs in one area, you might be looking at 2 to 3 pages, but you want to be really careful with the length because keep in mind, people are scanning or the machine is scanning to see, is this resume relevant to what we're looking for? Also, are something to think about when it comes to space. Keep your margins consistent throughout your career portfolio documents. And what that means is in your resume, in your cover letter, in your references page, have, kind of a consistent style, a consistent margin that you're using. Don't have gigantic margins on your cover letter and then teeny tiny narrow margins on your resume because you're trying to make it, 1 page. You might need to extend to 2 pages on your resume if that's truly the case and everything on that paper is relevant. And you all will see once you submit your initial resumes, you're going to get feedback to hopefully help you improve your resume. Okay, tip number 3 is all about formatting and style. This one is huge. Please use the same font throughout your resume. Nobody wants to try to figure out 4 different fonts in a resume. That just visually looks like you're a mess, and you are not a mess. So use your same font. At the most, maybe have 2 fonts, but don't get creative and try to use all the cute curly Q fonts. That slows the reviewer down. We don't want to be slowing anybody down. We want to get through the first round so that we can talk to people. Also consider using headers for sections of your resume. And so in our class this week, you'll see we have a couple of documents about how to effectively write and create a resume. When we think about style, you want to consider using a template, but don't get so rigid that you have to have a specific template. Um, Lots of times people will apply for a business type profession or job, and they'll have this really artsy, super colorful resume with pictures and graphics on it, and that doesn't exactly match. So consider the industry. If you're applying for an art job, for sure get creative. If you're applying for a marketing job, for sure get creative. If you're applying for a finance accounting job, probably a little more minimalistic is going to be in your favor. Consider also using, I've talked about this just a minute ago, a consistent style for all of your documents. I like to say this is like when you get ready in the morning, you're going to put on an outfit that matches, hopefully, and you want your career documents to match as well. That presents a professional persona on paper, and it shows, hey, this person is conscientious enough to make sure that their style is consistent. And so that means that you have some transferable trust to the potential employer, believe it or not. So if you go in with a cover letter that's of one font and one style, and then your resume is of a whole different style and font, and then your references are kind of all over the place, it really portrays someone who isn't put together. And so we want to avoid that as much as we can. Okay, tip number 4 is all about organization and relevance. So you'll have an article in this week's class documents that talks about how you organize your resume. Now, if you're in this class, you could be in any one of these buckets. Perhaps you are kind of mid-career and you're looking to promote from where you are to the next level. You might be in a traditional style of organizing. So that just means chronological. Like, what was your first position in the company? What was your second? What was your third? And so forth. The next organizing style is called entry level. So this may be, let's say I just graduated college and I've had some student worker jobs, and maybe I did some, I don't know, Uber Eats or DoorDash, that kind of thing. I would want to make sure that my resume has those transferable skills that show how, even though I'm entry level in the industry, I've got some experience and some skills that transfer over. Then we have the experienced professional. Now, this is where your resume might be a little bit longer. If you have been in your industry, let's say accounting, maybe you've been doing bookkeeping and now you're going to be an accountant. And so you've got like, I don't know, 8 to 10 years or even more of experience. You really want to focus your organization on your skills, your leadership, and your capabilities in that industry. And then finally, maybe you're looking for a career or even an industry change. This is where you want to think about, okay, in my previous career or industry, what skills, what talents, what tasks would carry over to this new industry? And so I'll use myself as an example. I spent 20 years in the finance industry prior to becoming a college instructor. And I also had my own business and still do. And so when I applied for this college instructor job, I really focused on, classroom management is kind of like team management. Keeping documentation of grades and giving feedback is kind of like what I do in my coaching business. And so think about what skills and talents do you have that transfer over into this new industry? And then we want to talk about relevance. So think about how those skills we just talked about will be transferable and relevant. And here's what I always say to my students and my clients. And I'm going to use 2 examples here. Let's say you're a stay-at-home parent and you're trying to enter the workforce after you graduate. And a lot of times my stay-home parents will say, "Oh, I haven't done anything since I worked at Burger King like 20 years ago, and I really don't have any skills." And I often will say, "Hold up, take out a piece of paper. Okay, do you take your kids to school? Do you organize like sports and play dates and performances? Okay, cool. Do you manage family finances? Do you make sure that folks have field trip money and field trip snacks? Okay, cool. Do you make sure library books get back on time? So you can see how some of these regular stay-at-home parent jobs can transfer into actual workplace jobs. So managing, getting snacks and schedules and all of that, that's really about organization for a group. Um, Getting kids to their sports practices on time. That's logistics. Managing the family budget is finance. And so you can definitely do the transfer of those skills when you're building your resume. And if you need help with that, just reach out. I'm happy to brainstorm that with you. Another one I often hear from is my students and clients who were bartenders or worked in the restaurant industry. And they're like, all I did was like bartend and like I really don't have any skills. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like bartending is essentially customer service in chaos. And so you have customer service, you might have conflict management, you've definitely got budgeting, you've got prioritizing and managing multiple tasks under pressure. So no matter what your job, you can look at those skills and figure out how are they relevant to the new career or job that you're working to get. And like I said, excuse me, at the beginning of this video, build a resume for each job that you apply for to highlight what is most relevant in your past that qualifies you as an excellent candidate. This is where file management is critical and crucial, okay? Don't build a brand new resume every time. Like have a general resume template that you save. Maybe you save it to your Google Drive or your cloud or a flash drive, but have a general resume. And then maybe your first jobs are you apply for some sales jobs. Well, you would highlight sales skills in that resume. And anytime you apply again for a sales job, you can use that resume. Maybe you have a customer service focused resume. So if you're applying for customer service jobs, you could go back and grab that customer service resume template that you made for yourself and tweak it and adjust it. We don't tweak it to lie. We tweak it to make it relevant and to highlight our skills. I want to be very clear about that. Don't ever say on a resume that you have a skill or that you accomplished something that you did not. That unfortunately will come out and later at some point, and it's generally unpleasant when those things come out. So, word to the wise there, don't do that to yourself. Okay, tip number 5 is all about using AI responsibly. And I'm going to encourage you all to play around with AI when it comes to using your resume. And this can be anything. It doesn't have to just be ChatGPT. But I'm going to encourage you, don't just prompt and paste. And that means don't just go into your AI of choice and say, hey, write me a resume for this customer service job. I have reviewed, let me see, I've been on 5 hiring committees or search committees in the past 6 months, and we can absolutely tell who's going into AI and saying, make me a resume. So don't fall into that group of people, okay? Because nobody wants those people. Yay that you can tell the machine to make you a resume. Cool. Everybody else can also. Show how you can set yourself apart if you're going to use AI. Consider having AI help you to improve your own writing, like your relevance, your results, and your skills. So let's say I wrote my whole resume and I want to use AI a little bit. I want to see like, can I get any better? You might put this prompt into your preferred AI and say, you are an expert resume writer trained to get past the ATS. Rewrite the following bullet points to be more specific, more results oriented, and concise. And then you just copy in your bullet points from your resume. AI is going to spit some info out for you, and you want to check it. Okay. If your bullet point said, I managed social media for a nonprofit and I increased their membership by 12%, okay, maybe AI goes in and they fancy that, or they go in and they fancy that up for you and they get it wrong. They say you improved their membership by 92%. So you got to make sure you double check the facts, okay? Because AI sometimes hallucinates, and we want to make sure we double check to make sure that it's true, authentic, and relevant to us. So it is okay to use AI in your resume, also okay to use it in this class. Just please use it responsibly. Now, what if you've got questions? If you're like, whoa, Christina, I've never used AI, I'm kind of scared of it. Or, whoa, Christina, my other teachers and, my job coach tells me don't ever use it. You are welcome to set an appointment with me. I am happy to talk all things AI. I'm an open book when it comes to using AI, and I think it's a good tool. And I think it's also sometimes misused. So, all right, let's see what we've got next. Oh boy, point number 6 or tip number 6. This is, in my opinion, the most absolute important tip, and that is get a second set of eyes. What does that weird saying mean? Well, that means I've already had my two eyes on my resume, right? Like I have read it, I've created it. Maybe I used AI to kind of tweak it a little bit, to improve it a little bit. And I am confident that my resume is great. And let's say I take it to my coworker and I say, hey, I've got this resume that's due for my class. Do you mind taking a look at it just to see if you see anything that isn't clear, isn't concise, or needs corrected? And so let's say my coworker is like, whoa, Christina, like this whole sentence doesn't make any sense. Here's the thing that happens when you spend a lot of time looking at a thing like your resume, your brain is super efficient and it might just skip over errors. It might just skip over misspelled words. Um, it might just, say, yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say. And so having a second person or a second set of eyes look at your document is going to hopefully catch any errors that might be in there. Don't get someone who doesn't have time or doesn't care. Get someone who has time and cares. And if you don't have someone like that that you can think of right off the top of your head, you could consider using our tutoring center on campus. They have in-person times, Zoom times, and they also have 24/7 over email time available. I will be giving you feedback on your submission of your resume, but what you don't want to do is miss out on points that your friend could have said, hey, this sentence doesn't make any sense. You need to fix it. Or, hey, you misspelled the name of the town that you live in. It's possible, it's happened. So yeah, definitely get that second set of eyes. Okay, now it's your turn. So here's what you have to do for this week's assignment. And if you're watching this and you're not in my class, I would encourage you do this and see if it helps you in your job search. So first, you're going to locate a job for which you would like to apply. And I will walk you through how to find one as a sample here in just a quick moment. And then you're going to save that document as a file, preferably a Word file or PDF, depending on how you can get it to save. That's going to be part 1 of your assignment. And then your second or part 2 of your assignment is going to be to build a draft resume. And I would encourage you to use a template. I've got some templates available in class. You can also go on Microsoft Word and type in resume template, and it will find many, many templates for you. Choose an appropriate one. Then you want to choose the appropriate organization and style for your resume. There's some information about that in the articles for this week. And you want to highlight any relevant skills, education, training, and so forth that match the job that you found. So in this activity for this week, we're pretending that we're going to actually apply for a job. You don't have to actually apply for this job. If you want to, that's amazing. I encourage you to do that. But there's no requirement for this assignment that you actually apply. Okay, so your goal is to match the resume information to the job posting, make sure it's relevant, and then you can use AI where appropriate to help finesse parts of your resume. Again, don't do the prompt and paste. Like, don't say, here's the job listing, review it, and create a resume that will work for my class. It's going to be evident, and you will get a nice little 0. Don't do that to yourself. Take the time to do the activity. Okay, that is the lecture on resume crafting. And next up, I am going to show you how to do a quick job search. Let me see if this is going to share. Yes, perfect. Okay, what you're looking at is I went on governmentjobs.com. I think you can see that up in the top of the screen there. And I just searched for jobs in the Grants Pass or Medford, Oregon areas. And I just picked a random job, and it is a utility billing services technician. I've got the salary here. It's in the finance department, It's a recently opened job, so it opened in July of this year. Tells me where the location is, and it gives me a description for this job down at the bottom. So it says I need to have graduated from high school or GED equivalent and 2 years of clerical accounting or billing experience. And so for those of you who are in school for bookkeeping, accounting, finance, management, leadership, supervision, this would be a job that you could probably apply for. And it's got some of the preferred qualifications, experience processing payments, um, proficiency with Microsoft Word and Excel, excellent written, verbal, and interpersonal communication skills. Now, here's where that point that I told you about getting the second set of eyes is important. If I were a reviewer on this search committee for this job and someone submitted a resume and it had multiple spelling, punctuation errors, I would not push them forward because in the preferred qualifications, we say we want excellent written, verbal, and interpersonal communication skills. And this is Christina's personal opinion, but if we have that listed as a job preferred qualification and someone doesn't take the care to make sure that they've spelled, used correct punctuation, and created a clearly written resume and cover letter, then I don't need to hear anything else from them. I just kick them out of the search and say they failed the search. So keep that in mind. That's why spelling, punctuation, grammar, writing, that's why all of those are so important. The job market is super competitive right now. And yeah, you just want to make sure that you're really looking at the qualifications. Okay. Um, 8 hours daily, Monday to Friday. That sounds good to me. And then, oh, check this out. There's an opportunity for alternate schedule after the first 90 days. And so I could get the opportunity for a 3-day weekend every other week. This sounds really interesting to me. Then it gives you a little bit of information about the total compensation package. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And so year one, I could earn, according to this little chart, up to $85,070.04. That's pretty amazing, especially if I just graduated college. Okay, then it talks about healthcare benefits, retirement benefits, and additional benefits. So I'm pretty interested in this job. So if I want to use this one for my assignment and activity this week, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up to the little print icon, and this is on the governmentjobs.com site. Every site will be a little bit different, but to get to the PDF, it's going to be very similar. You're going to find some way to print that document. And then when you go to print it, let me just click print one more time from my little window here. It's going to give you the option to print or save to a PDF. I would recommend that you save this to a PDF. And when you save it, I would recommend that you title it with the name of the job. Okay, so I might say Medford Utility Billing Services Technician if I were saving this for me and a job search. So that's part one of your assignment for this week. And then part two is, again, just going in and creating a resume to match that job that you found. All right, folks, if you have any questions as you're working on this week's assignments or activities, just let me know. And if you're watching this not in class, of course, you can make a comment. I'll be happy to reach out. Okay, folks, that is all for this video. And I hope you have an amazing week. And again, please let me know if you have questions. Okay, take care.